Well, good afternoon. And here we are again. My name is Jim Codd, and once more I'm going to say I'm proud to be a member of the world's finest launch team anywhere. I'll accept that on behalf of all of you. 3 years ago, I was part of a team. I was working out of Los Angeles and beating a path up Route 5 between LA and San Diego, putting together a proposal called Medium Launch Vehicle 2. A lot of dedicated people were involved in that. Some of you all standing out there were involved in it. And in May of 1988, Secretary of the Air Force Aldrich told us that we'd won. Right after that announcement, there was the usual euphoria and the celebrations, and that was followed by stark fear, because reality set in that now that we won, we're going to have to do something about it. And behind me is the results of that. A brand new, largest, most powerful Atlas rocket that's ever going to fly, and it will fly. To begin the ceremony today, I'd like to introduce our guests. Behind me, on my far right, is Colonel Tim Brock. Next to Colonel Brock is Colonel Bob Chalo, Vice Commander of 6555th Aerospace Test Group. On my immediate left is Colonel Jerry Johnson, Lieutenant Colonel Jerry Johnson, Commander, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. And the gentleman on my far left really doesn't need an introduction, but I'll do it anyhow. The Director of Base Operations, General Dynamics Space Systems Division, Frank Watkins. I'd like to ask each of our guests to come up and help us recognize this momentous occasion. And we'll start with Colonel Chalo.
Thanks, Jim. I had the fortune of being in charge of the Medium Launch Vehicles Division here at the test group at the time that Atlas came on board as our newest Air Force booster. And to get the things rolling there, as Jim said, we looked ahead, yeah, we can do that, we can do that. How are we going to do that? And now you've done it. The rocket's here. I don't need to say many words because the actions of this launch team will speak far louder than any words that can be said this morning. The beauty of this one is it's the first one here on the East Coast in some time where we'll have a joint launch team, Air Force and General Dynamics. Still a lot of learning to do in that, but I know that together the team has much to offer to both General Dynamics as a company. The team will offer much to our country in terms of the capability that's represented by AC-101 that's behind us. So we're looking forward to the team effort as it gets launched, to process this booster through its flow, and look especially forward to that date not too far from now where we'll see the fire underneath and we'll be putting real military hardware into orbit to perform more of the missions, just as those that were recently performed in support of Desert Storm. Because that's what we're here for, and that's what the rockets were purchased for, and we're really looking forward to seeing that happen. I know that we do have one of the best launch teams in the country represented right here, and it's only going to get better. I commend you to your task, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Bob. We accept that challenge. Before I introduce our next guest, I see a friendly and familiar face out there that I'd like to acknowledge. A friend to all of us, retired Lieutenant Colonel Wayne Penley. Wayne, take a bow over there. When Wayne retired, his relief hit the ground running, and I don't need to say any more about him. Lieutenant Colonel Jerry Johnson.
It's a pleasure to be with you today on this occasion. I think that the hardware behind this says a great deal about the commitment that General Dynamics has made to being a strong, viable player in the space business. I don't know of any other commitment that has been backed up quite so profoundly as this one by General Dynamics in going ahead, taking the initiative to stay in the expendable launch vehicle when other people were waning, and still looking for a lot of support from Uncle Sam. You and your company are to be commended for the entrepreneurship that's demonstrated by this hardware and the commitment that they made years ago when they said we will continue to fly this system in spite of overwhelming odds when it looked like it was not even going to be viable. So the attitude of the people in the company, supported by the folks in the field here who really make the commitments that are made on the West Coast come to fruition, are to be commended. I look forward to seeing this vehicle launched. I am absolutely astonished at the size of it, and I know that when it's launched and it achieves the missions that we expect for it to do for the DOD, as well as far as the commercial ventures that you've got planned, you'll be even more proud. So I thank you for inviting me to be a part of this momentous occasion, and I wish you best of luck in all the endeavors in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Johnson. Lieutenant Colonel Taylor mentioned that this was a team effort. And there are two people sitting up here on this stage that I think form the dynamic duo of that team. The people that get the dirt under their fingernails and make it happen. Representing the 6555th Aerospace Test Group as part of that team is the commander of the Atlas Combined Test Force, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Brock.
Thanks, Jim. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today to speak to you. It was a little under 2 years ago that I first joined the Atlas team at the bidding of Colonel Taylor, and it's been an immense pleasure to be out there and watch the launch complex go from basically an abandoned facility to the finest launch complex in the United States and probably in the world. And the effort that's been put out there is a tribute to each and every one of you. And we're really proud to have been out there and watched you do the job. Now we're ready to move on to another phase of the operation, and we're ready to join you hand in hand and get out there and do it. Now, we've done our first major joint operation just last night, the offload of the vehicle, and the cooperation that we received from the General Dynamics team was just magnificent. We couldn't have asked for a better rapport out on the skid strip last night and teamwork to get that task done. And we hope that that's going to continue, and we know it's going to continue through the rest of the flow and to a successful launch. I know we've been sitting on the sidelines in the test group for a long time, listening to the ongoing debate between the Titan guys about the biggest vehicle and the Delta guys about the most frequent launch vehicle. But I'll tell you what, we got the most beautiful launch vehicle of anybody at the Cape. The one last thing that we, the Atlas II Combined Test Force, would like to do is make a presentation to Mr. Watkins. So if you'd join me up here. Frank, once again, we're going to be proud to be a member of your team, and just to honor your team and the great effort that the whole company has put into building this vehicle, we'd be honored if you would fly this American flag over the blockhouse for the first mission. You bet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Brock. On behalf of General Dynamics and those of us at the Cape, I'd like to say for all of us, I'm very proud to be on the platform this afternoon and share the upcoming Atlas II program with our customer, the United States Air Force. Behind us is the first of the Atlas II's, AC 101. We wanted a little ceremony. We wanted to keep it local, and we wanted to talk to you folk out there. You're key, not the folks that are up here. It's the folks out there that are going to make it happen. I was reflecting last night over at the skid strip, the first time we held one of these roll-in ceremonies. It was June '89 out at Complex 36. We welcomed AC 68 back. I can remember most of what I said that day. One of the things we did was look over our shoulder to the north and indicate that we were reactivating Complex 36A to support the Atlas II program. We've come a long way since then. We've had, besides the Atlas activity out at 36, Titan Centaur activity out at the VIV and Complex 41. Today, for the first time since 1977, General Dynamics has 3 flight vehicles down here, 2 Atlases and a Titan Centaur. Today, for the first time since 1983, we will begin to start active operations with regard to flight hardware and AC-36. And I think that's most appropriate and most encouraging. The other thing that I wanted to reflect on was the appropriateness of having this little roll-in ceremony up here in the, quote, industrial area. We talk a lot of times about launch team, and the folk and the activity that goes on up here is just as key as that goes on out at the launch site in resulting in mission success. Many of you, and Bob Beasley reminded me of this, November of '88, the first cut for that hardware was done down here in the Cape Canaveral Operations Precision Machine Shop. And I'd like to give the machinists a hand. A lot of effort went on up here in the Fab and Mod shop to get 36A ready. We're not quite there yet, but we will be soon, and we'll put that bird up here in March when we're ready and when it's ready. I guess in closing, I'm somewhat superstitious. Those who remember the AC-68 ceremony will note I'm wearing the same suit, same pants, same coat that I wore then. I'm not sure that has anything to do with mission success, but I'll take any odds I can get. I want to point out one other thing, though, in closing. What's at stake here? We have the first Atlas II behind us. We are not selling hardware to our customers in the Air Force or to our commercial customers. We're selling a launch service. A launch service doesn't stop when the hardware is delivered here to the Cape. A launch service doesn't stop when we get 2-inch rise-off. A launch service stops when we successfully complete our portion of the mission, and that is to inject the satellite into its proper orbit, in its proper point in space, proper separation constraints. It's a reoccurring theme, I believe it with every part of my body, that it's the people that are key in making the hardware go successfully. It's you people out there that are going to do the task, hundreds of thousands of tasks flawlessly, that will result in the middle of this year of Atlas 101 going right where it should. So I challenge you once again, as we did in that ceremony out at 36 in '89, do your best, remember what's at stake, And in the middle of the year, we'll be having the same kind of activity after that launch that we had after AC-68. As a fellow worker said on her retirement, go Atlas, go Centaur. It's the best contractor Air Force team, and it's the best hardware this side of Canada.
Thank you. It's very significant activity here at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Most of you might remember when we gave this little thing out at 36 or AC-68. I call your attention to the stage. You probably notice there's a vacant chair. It's not there to balance things off. It's symbolic. And I'll remind you again, as I did on the 6th of June, 1989, symbolizing that chair is a man who God took from us early. The Vice President of Atlas Programs, Mr. Bill Phillip, was the driving force when I was talking about putting that proposal together 3 years ago. Bill's no longer with us in body, but you can bet he's here in spirit. And I'll remind you once again, as Frank said, as you go about your task to prepare this rocket for flight, do it smart, do it safe, and when you hear that little whisper in your ear, that little tap on your shoulder, pay attention to it. Thank you all for coming today.
You already closed the line. That's pretty good. I can't